This week on Under NDA.
Hold on, I have to sneeze. There's so much dust in this house. Okay, I'm good. I don't think so. I mean, I'll mute myself if it comes out. Don't worry.
All right, welcome to Under NDA, season number 2. We are back, Woody. We are back.
It's good to be back.
Yeah, it is. It is, man. 6 episodes last season. If you haven't listened to them, check them out. They are evergreen. They're always relevant. They're always timely.
Right.
Yeah, we're back, and man, there's maybe we want to talk a little bit about the changes in format.
Yeah, absolutely. Season 1 was a lot of fun. It was a really nice toe in the water. Had some wonderful people on, had some great conversations. I think we realized that we want to continue. It was that much fun. And in season 2, we've had a lot of conversations about season 2, and season 2 is going to be a lot of fun too. We're going to change the format just a little bit based on some conversations we've had and some feedback we've gotten. But I think this is going to be a really fun change. So we're going to continue to highlight these wild and absurd stories across work and corporate America, and we'll continue to anchor those stories and insights on positive elements, of course, positive elements of leadership and learnings we can take forward and build on these stories from to help all of us become better leaders. And that's one of our key ideas here. And we're going to pull back. This is where it gets interesting. We're going to pull back the curtain a little bit in some new places, right? And what that looks like is we're going to start to look across industries and professions, really to help gain new perspectives on what leadership and success looks like in different places, and what happens behind the scenes.
We're maybe you can give our listeners some insight into.
Oh, of course, insight.
Because I think for many people, this has been an area of curiosity throughout their lives.
Yes. We're trying to double click into, specific, more into specific areas that maybe are lesser known, or maybe you have kind of a surface level view of. So this season in particular, we've got somebody that's going to come in and talk a little bit about the world of a full-time content producer, somebody that's in there creating YouTube and TikTok and learning content and all of the stuff there. And then we've also got,
just to note, has 1.2 million followers. So she's
killing it.
Yeah, she's not at the starting point. She gives some really great insights.
She has some experience to point to. Yeah, exactly. And then one of the other areas that we're really fortunate to be able to kind of double click into and pull back the curtain on is the secret world of professional ballet, which is unexpected and delightful. And we got a 2-part series that we recorded with a couple of different folks who have deep industry experience. But yeah.
Yeah, it's I think we talked in season 1. One of the many questions we got is like, is this just going to be corporate stories, like corporate America? And we, speaking for both of us, I think we sat back and said, well, yeah, and what other areas could be interesting to dive into that are different, that give people insight into a world that they probably wouldn't. And ballet having 2 retired professionals, so these are people that danced for companies around the world to huge audiences, to hear what their experience was growing up in the world of ballet, growing up with ballet mistresses that were difficult and artistic directors. It really just gives you this really fantastic, super interesting, fascinating window into this world that, again, if you're not a professional ballet person, you should never ever see it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. What's the lesser known side of these worlds that you go to a performance or you see on TV or you read about? I mean, there's just so many interesting things that happen both at the the leadership level and then as folks who are practitioners and operate across these industries and fields, there's just so many rich stories that are nuanced and, exist across these industries in different ways, but ultimately come back as insights and lessons to be learned around leadership and, how to thrive in different industries. So it's really exciting. It's really exciting.
And so stay tuned for those 2 episodes. Again, like Woody said, it's a 2-part series. Our next episode we're going to kick off with is actually discussion around what the hell is happening in San Francisco in the Bay Area with AI companies and the way that they're putting preview. The term they're now using is hard tech. So a lot of great insights from an executive that we brought on board, but some really interesting, maybe even surprising perspectives on the change in the world of tech driven by AI and probably the emergence from COVID.
That's a fun one.
Yeah. But Woody, a lot has happened in the months since we actually recorded our last episode. We've learned that going to a Coldplay concert is potentially dangerous. If only
we have.
Yes, we saw that.
We have. If you're a certain type of person,
you're doing certain types of things.
You're kind of certain things. Yes, don't go to Coldplay concerts.
Don't go to Coldplay. But it was also really interesting when we wrapped up the first season. A lot of what people were talking about was these phenomenons of quiet quitting, and they call it the Great Stay. Mm-hmm. A lot of companies are laying off people, not as many jobs in the job market, people finding it more challenging, longer cycles to actually get rehired. You really take this phenomenon of people just kind of like not doing anything, just, kind of like not working, but not getting fired. I think remote has maybe had impact on that and kind of help propel that a little bit because you don't have, day-to-day in-office views into people's work. And then the Great Stay, just people, again, not seeing a ton of opportunities out there, not going forward. The new trend, which I think we're going to really dive into today with a story, because that's what we do here.
Yeah.
The distinction is really around this phenomenon of job hugging. So you might ask, what is job hugging? So job hugging is...
What is job hugging? Yes.
It's a trend where employees just hold tightly. They intentionally make themselves bottlenecks. They intentionally make sure that they are the choke point for different processes in the belief potentially that will prevent them from ever being laid off, that they're so important. Mm-hmm. And what the trend that we're seeing is that people are trying to grab more. That's what they're seeing in the market. They're trying to tighten their grip on more processes versus loosen them. And that's been it's the thing that I think we want to dive into. So I think, where your story that was submitted to us, I think actually this thing that brought to our attention job hugging was this story.
That's right. And if you recall in season 1, we had a different type of hugging within the workplace that we touched on with Andrew. But this is going to become I guess a theme now for us every season, some form of hugging. But but job hugging is an interesting one. So let's dive into this story. So this story is called The Gatekeeper. We had this guy, Mark, who'd been with the company for years and somehow became the gatekeeper for everything. Vendor contracts, system access, approvals, you name it. I don't know about you, Dorian, but I can relate to. I've known a few gatekeepers over the years.
I cannot count how many gatekeepers. And so many of them have become gatekeepers just out of years of experience and taking on more. But I've worked with a lot of them.
There's kind of the necessity side of gatekeeping, but then there's the asserting of stewardship and gatekeeping. That's what we're talking about. So he wasn't rude about it, but he was slow. Everything had to go through Mark. And once it did, it usually disappeared for at least a week. He'd say things like, well, I just want to make sure it's done right. But no one really knew what that meant.
Sounds so familiar.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. New people learned fast that nothing moved unless Mark blessed it. Projects piled up, timelines stretched, and the team quietly built side workarounds just to keep things moving. Yep. Then Mark, went on vacation for 2 weeks. Everyone panicked, expecting chaos. They weren't really sure what to do or what these processes were. But everything ran just fine. Actually, better than fine. Approvals happened same day, and projects finally moved forward.
So what's so interesting about this, I'm recollecting in my head and just all these experiences I've had with this situation.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. I don't know if you've experienced this, that we just naturally create these workarounds because you get to a point where you feel so blocked that you can't make any progress. And so it's like fight or flight. And it's the fight part where you just try to figure out, like, how the hell can I get my job done when I have this blocker that won't move, that won't be displaced in any way.
That's right. And interestingly enough, you may or may not know this, but you can get things done. There's always a way to get something done. Even if somebody steps aside or goes on vacation, there's always a way to get something done. So in the case of this story, these folks found a way to get this done without Mark. So when he came, go ahead.
No, it's so enlightening when, I think typically what I've seen is that this is usually what happens. Usually they never take vacation. So you don't really uncover this. And actually, this reminds me of years and years ago. I was at a company where the CEO said everyone must take 2 weeks vacation. There's unlimited vacation, but everyone had to take 2 weeks. And the thought process there was this: we need to get people away for a couple of weeks to make sure that should something happen, the business was not at risk. And so people were forced. And there was some pushback. Some of these people, actually gatekeeper people.
That's interesting.
They're like, I want to have to take vacation. It should be up to me. But it was a rule that we had just to make sure that the health in the business was there, and to give opportunities to say, hey, what this person is saying, like, is it true?
So it wasn't necessarily like a wellness benefit by itself. It was a push to identify potential points of failure.
I think that sounds a little bit nefarious. I think it was both. Because we want to figure out if we can fire you, so go on vacation for 2 weeks.
No.
I think it's more about one, wellness, because they've done all these studies that show
of course,
limited vacation you take way less than if you actually have fun vacation, because a lot of companies there's no norms that are set, and so you got people are afraid to take too much. And of course, you have some people who take way too much. We can't do
way too much.
So I think it was wellness. It was like, hey, nobody should not take vacation. But as a side benefit, there was the ability to look at teams of how things were running to see if there were areas that could be improved. So, the motivation, I probably put the motivation is not to just, be able to get a deep look into someone's work to see what they were doing. It was more, they need a vacation, and while they're gone, we can have a better appreciation of, if there's risk in the business, if somebody leaves.
No, that makes sense. So when Mark comes back, leadership didn't make a big scene. They just left the new structure in place. Responsibility spread across the team mechanically. Automated approvals were possible. Mark's role was quietly redefined into something narrower and more strategic. He didn't lose his job, but he wasn't the gatekeeper anymore. And for the first time, no one had to check with Mark before getting work done.
There's imagine that, Mark was probably relieved, right? Like, in this situation, because it's got to be stressful to be in a position where you feel like you have to be a gatekeeper. You feel like, because you and I talk about job hugging, a lot of the motivation is job insecurity, right? And a lot of the reason why people start doing this and they take over more processes and they make themselves the single point of failure is, again, to probably defend against that insecurity. And so I wonder if gave him another job with a narrow focus. I don't know. I just wonder, what do you think? Do you think Mark would have been relieved here, upset, nervous, more nervous now?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know Mark, but I would assume that if he had tried to, create some security or sense of security for himself by creating these processes or the guise of processes, that the company realizing that they didn't need those, or maybe they were creating friction and having them removed may have created some insecurity for him on the flip side of it, right? Like, oh no, um, I don't know, but I think for the sake of for the people you work with, and just thinking about how you get things done and how you create value for the teams and the companies you work with. I don't know. I believe that it's probably a safer bet to create value and impact versus spinning up processes and potential points of friction. Uh, I don't know who that ultimately benefits at the end of the day, but as soon as somebody sees through that or
Yeah.
realizes that maybe it's not necessary, I can't see that working in your favor. But I don't know. I don't know what happened to Mark.
I won't. It is interesting. I'd love to sort of focus in on the team, right? So they came on board. They learned fast that they couldn't do anything else. Mark contributed. Uh, it- they built some workarounds, but the big inflection point was Mark going on vacation. We talked about you can always build a workaround. Like you said, the work can always get done. It's much more challenging, obviously, if there's friction. When we look at the peer level, I mean, what do you think they should have done? Like, how do you think they should have worked with Mark? Maybe acknowledging his insecurities, but as a peer, if you are blocked from doing your work because of a gatekeeper, what would you suggest?
Yeah, I mean, assuming everyone's got healthy relationships and there's a spirit of transparency, which is ideal. Um, just sitting down and trying to figure out, what the processes actually are. So having some transparency there and being able to identify them, if they are indeed necessary and creating friction, and then just working together as a team to figure out, you know, how to make those improvements or how to get something done faster. And, I think one of the more interesting things about business is that it should be always kind of evolving, right? There should be things that are pushing forward and evolving. And I personally find that very interesting. I mean, that's one of the reasons I get excited to show up, in my job and then in work every day is there a new or more efficient way that we could be doing something, to get to the thing that really excites us at the end of the day. We all like to build things and ship things and produce things. Um, so to the extent that, the team can sit down and try and identify, how to improve that process together with Mark and him being open to that. And I don't know, Mark. Um, that's always a safe bet. It's just to ask the question, do we need this? Is there a better way? Is there, um, is there something that we could be doing differently as a team?
Yeah.
Just having a conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like the golden path where Mark is willing and transparent.
Mark's willing. Big assumption.
Yeah. Most times I've seen this, that person is very defensive often, right?
Yeah.
Because of breaching insecurity. And you look from a manager perspective or a leader perspective, and I think it's incumbent on a leader to look across their team, obviously in their one-on-ones, uncover if there's some challenges, right? So kind of deep dive. And so you're learning, like, is there, asking your team members, are you blocked in any way? Where are you having challenges? Not making it personal, but more of like, hey, different parts of your work, are you finding that you're able to actually successfully move through and get it done? And then really, being somewhat prescriptive with the team of like what the separation of work is and what people's actual responsibilities are. And I think people not getting rid of any ambiguity within the team of saying, hey, this is what you're responsible for, and that's what this means. At least gives people on the team, I think, the ability to be able to stand up for themselves to a gatekeeper and say, hey, I really think this is part of my job description. I think I should be doing this. And so I think it's incumbent on managers to empower your people through the elimination of ambiguity so that they can actually stand up and push through without having to just do secret workarounds and pray someone's going on vacation.
Right. Yeah. 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 You don't want to encumber your team with that and setting them up and putting them in a position where they've got to do that lifting where, there might be somebody, especially if it's somebody more senior that's creating, the process, the bottleneck, et cetera. and the team doesn't feel comfortable approaching that conversation, or not feeling comfortable questioning it, I guess is really what it comes down to. So.
Yeah, and I think that's where great leadership needs to come in, just to be involved and to understand what people are doing. And again, having one-on-ones and asking the question of, where are you having challenges? Where are you blocked? Because just that one open question can uncover so much. I do love that they gave him another job. I think a lot of the insecurity that drives job hugging is this idea that, if your job goes away, parts of your job that would be eliminated. But we know it's, things are evolving so quickly, right? Like I always tell people, I think I said this last season, if you came into work on November 29th, 2022, and you were planning your next year, you would have to have completely rewritten it on December 1st, because in between those 2 days, ChatGPT launched and everything really sort of evolved. So I think one thing that's also incumbent on management is to make sure that if you have a gatekeeper, that they understand that their job can evolve and it's not at risk because things change, but that change is just natural. It's the only constant, right? Making sure that removing that insecurity, I think just makes it better for the entire team to do a lot.
Completely agree.
I wonder what the next trend is going to be.
I hope it's something positive that enriches all of our lives for the better.
Yeah, it's been kind of a slog, right? Like just all these different trends that just are not. How about like job loving? What that? That's the new trend. Job loving.
Yeah, job loving, or I don't know. The 4-day work week is still being discussed. It has been for years, decades. I don't know.
As we know, in a future episode, we're going to be talking about the 996, which is the complete opposite of that, which is
that's right,
9 p.m. 6 days a week. So I think we're getting more of a chasm between the two.
And we're heading in the wrong direction.
Yeah. I think we'll talk about that a lot when we have our episode about what's happening in the Bay Area, especially generally in tech. But yeah, I don't know if
that's interesting. No, I thought the promised land was AI was going to give us all time back, and we'd have nominal amount of effort having to put into our jobs, and everything would just be so much easier.
Didn't they say that about Slack?
Yeah. And Slack's blowing up at every hour of the day now. It's always there, ever present. But it's going to be an exciting season. I think we've got a lot of really fun things to dig into. We've got some wonderful guests, some very, very relevant topics for what's going on in the world around us today. So I'm excited.
Awesome.
Excited to be back.
Yeah, it's so exciting to be back. The season's going to be fantastic. We will be ending it, by the way, with an episode that I'm super excited about. It's called Holiday Hell. It will be right before the holidays, and we're going to highlight some amazing stories coming out of holiday parties. For example, as a friend of mine once said, nobody ever got promoted at a holiday party, but many a person got fired. So we will be revisiting that in this season. If you haven't again listened to season 1, please go ahead and do so. And thank you for joining us. This has been a great kickoff to what will be a phenomenal season.
Looking forward to it.